7 o'clock, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Old Saybrook Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission of September 18th, 2025. Present, we have myself, Colin Heffernan, we have Charles Savage, we have Anna Gabori, we have Peter Delisa, we have Mark Caldarello, we have Paula Kay, we have Jay Kulowick, we have Elizabeth Steffen. Jay, we will see you tonight.
Okay.
Very good. First order of old business is item number 25-014, Yarra Development LLC, the application to conduct a regulated activity at 1370 Boston Post Road, map 27, lot 19, the restoration of upland review area. Applicant owner Yarra Development LLC, agent attorney Edward M. Casella, will consider the act no later than 10/4/2025. Attorney Casella.
Hey, good evening, Ed Casella, representing Jarracor LLC, is the owner of 1370 Boston Post Road, which is the Dairy Queen property. We went through some of the background last month, so I won't do it again, but this is property owned by Jensen Jara, who owns West Master Tile, a number of other properties, and he purchased it. Prior to his purchase, the previous owner had done a clearing in the upland review. So we've hired Bob Russo to come up with a restoration plan for positively revegetating the upland review area. And that's what's on the plan. There's the updated plan that you received indicates that the area between the revegetated 25 to 40-foot strip is going to remain as lawn. They'll open up the property, allow more visibility for the sign. Right now, it's just kind of a tangled mess, or it was a tangled mess, and it's becoming a tangled mess again. But Bob Russo from CLA has his recommendations on the plan, which will all be in effect. Leaving all existing trees, removing the invasives, 3-year monitoring for invasives like knotweed and a system for removing knotweed, and then planting 28 shrubs and a roadside upland seed mix within the area closest to the wetlands. The restoration can take place this fall. I know that's what the plan is, hopefully, if it gets approved during the fall planting season. All work has to be overseen by the soil scientist, so there's specific notes on the plan regarding that, and Lynette, as the wetlands officer, will be notified when the work begins, so that she can be on site, making sure that the specifications are followed. So that's what the plan is for this restoration.
Lynette, anything to add?
Yes, one comment or question really. So for the New England roadside seed mix, which is proposed in the green area, it says that it contains seeds of grasses, wildflowers, and shrubs. And depending on the use that it's intended for, you mow it or you don't mow it. So in this area, I guess I'm asking you to clarify what's the plan. I would hope that they were not going to mow it and allow the shrubs to grow.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
In the area, the green area, as you said.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Any questions from the commission? Yes.
I've had experience with knotweed this past year because of the one of the commissions requiring that our property is senior housing get rid of knotweed and plant $4,000 worth of architectural plants, and the plants have been killed by the knotweed. You can't get rid of it unless you constantly, day in, day out, dig it up. It will not die. You can cut it down and it comes right back twice as bad as it was before. And we've actually thrown away over $4,000 of ARPA money doing architectural plantings on our property.
I think that's noted, but we'll take the effort at, I don't know how bad it is out there. how extensive it is, so. The landscapers will work with Bob Russo and Lynette and, you know, evaluate that when they get on site.
Any other comments from the commission? Okay, I will make a motion that we accept the plan as presented. Second. Any discussion? Motion. Second there, Mark second, thank you, Jay second, okay, any discussion, Paul?
By way of discussion,
Mhm. Sure.
given these facts about getting rid of knotweed,
Mhm.
should we in fact at this point say that if they're not successful, they could go to like plan B? To get rid of it, or, I mean, how would we weigh the need to control the invasive
Well,
knotweed versus,
number,
I guess, using a herbicide or some other, known method of getting rid of it? Have you pursued?
We've tried everything.
number 7 of the restoration sequence says that they're gonna monitor it for 3 years. To control for invasive species, and it will of course be filed with the Old Saybrook Wetlands Officer, and it specifically spells out that other concern is the presence of knotweed. So I think that for 3 years anyway, we'll look to see what the progress looks for, and we'll adjust accordingly. I certainly don't have the expertise to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I just thought, okay, all right, that's fine. I was just thinking,
Yeah.
it would give them the okay to use the herbicide if they didn't succeed, but okay.
I think that's
that
in the
means
plan
they'll talk
already.
to Lynette.
Yeah.
You're already proposing that in the landscape restoration plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions?
Approve it, or did you?
We're up to.
That motion was to approve?
Yeah.
To accept, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Accept as presented.
got it.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Right, but that's what we're doing, like, right, yeah.
I guess I was just looking for approved, but
Oh, okay.
sometimes when it's like the first night,
Oh, okay.
accept it as complete.
Garden area?
I just wanted to make sure we're on the same.
Okay, which is the first night or the second?
Second night.
Second, okay.
So they were
They were approved.
just now,
Yeah.
yes, all right,
Yeah.
just clarifying,
Yeah.
okay, I got it,
Didn't accept it as completely approved it, it's.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Item B, 25-012 91 Sheffield LLC, application to conduct a regulated activity at 91 Sheffield, map 49, lot 2. Construction of a single-family residence, attached garage, driveway, pool, retaining wall placement to fill, grading and landscape construction within the water review area. Owner 91 Sheffield LLC, agent attorney Marjorie Shansky. We already considered an act within 10/24/2025. And we have with us Attorney Shansky, I see you're over there. And Mr. Ott. Yep, okay, and Mr. Logan, I see. And is Martin Brogy joining us?
He's here.
Yeah.
He's there?
Yep.
Very good. And landscape architect as well, I imagine?
Gabrielle Adams and Barb Constable from A2 Design, they're here as well.
Very good. Attorney Shansky, we've heard this last week to accept as complete, I believe. And we're back today, so Attorney Shansky, I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Marjorie Shansky for the applicant, and you've identified the assembled team. The commission had requested to hear more about the trees, and Ms. Adams will and or Ms. Constable will address that. I think Mr. Ott has walked us through the site plan, including the demolition sequence and the manner in which that's being conducted directly into trucks that will remove the debris from the premises. There won't be any storage going on during that exercise. And of course, Mr. Logan is here to correlate the information that's being brought by A2 Design Consulting, Ms. Adams and Ms. Constable, to the wetlands, about which we've heard much in this meeting and in the prior application. from the succession of experts from Mr. Snarsky for Eric Davison and Davison's reporting that is in the file, in which we provided a copy of to be included in this record. And a tree survey, which was commissioned by the owner in order to understand the foliage on site to inform the planning exercise. And we have Mr. Brogy and Mr. Logan all agreeing that this is a low functioning wetland. And but we have chosen not to disturb it in this application. There is one tree, I'm told, in the wetland that's being left. And then there is some tree removal occurring in the upland review area and elsewhere on the parcel. And we'll talk to Mr. Brogy's concern about shade, because there are a lot of trees and shrubbery being planted to make up for what is being removed from the site. So with that, let's get to the substantive individuals. Mr. Chair, do you want to, Mr. Logan, perhaps come and sit at the table?
Sure.
And Ms. Adams be prepared to discuss with you the tree issue.
Certainly.
Good evening, George Logan, Principal with Green Lake Ecological Services. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Obviously, we've had a letter from Mr. Brogy that was September 25th, maybe, or something like that. Sorry, yes, thank you. I don't have it in front of me. I did have some discussions with Mr. Brogy this afternoon, just to be sure that we're on the same page as far as my clarification of what he was asking. There was a few issues still kind of floating out there that we needed to address. The clarification was that as of this moment, Mr. Brogy and I, we've agreed, does not want to see any herbicide treatment whatsoever within 25 feet of the wetland or the wetland itself, of course. He did, and we will probably speak to that, go out to the site today just to verify what we've seen. His testimony will be before you in a moment. Outside of the 25, one of the other things that Mr. Brogy said is that he didn't like the use of glyphosate, and we absolutely agree with that. Glyphosate it's too broad spectrum, it kills too many things, it persists in the environment too long. So what I did is a little exercise, and it's probably more of an educational tool for the commission and for anyone else who might be interested. I had done some research a few years ago on the difference between glyphosate and triclopyr. And so I produced a memo, and I'll just pass it along. It's probably more educational than anything else. This way and that way. And I did forward this to Lynette earlier, and I also forwarded it to Mr. Brogy. I think he was thankful for. The idea is that a certain formulation of triclopyr is the best to be used outside of the 25 or any of the woody species that, while they could be removed mechanically, they tend to resprout. So for instance, a Norway maple will resprout, a locust will resprout, some of these other species will resprout. So the idea is to use triclopyr using the cut and paint technique and the specific way of doing it in a specific formulation that is not harmful to the soil microbiology, is not harmful to species around that we want to save. It basically is very targeted, and it doesn't last anywhere as long as glyphosate. So again, just I have this more for as an educational tool. So the other thing that Mr. Brogy had mentioned that he probably had seen that there was a little notation on one of the landscaping plans that indicated that these particular species, and it was a small list, but not any numbers of how many, will be planted into the 25-foot area after the removal of invasives. And Mr. Brogy was like, well, he would prefer to see some kind of a plan. So the discussion that we had, and he'll speak to it, is that we can provide some numbers. We did change a little bit the mix of the species based on the fact that we changed the plan. And so there was gonna be more shade based on the trees, so a couple of the species that we had previously proposed probably wouldn't do as well, so we have some substitutions, and I think Abigail or Barbara will talk about that. So that's sort of my contribution at this point, and we're still going to talk about how we go forward as far as a plan. And the idea was that as a condition of approval, the commission may put forth that once the removal of the invasives happens, as prescribed previously, that we can produce a plan. Now that we know exactly what spaces we have, what's been removed, what it looks like, also we have the other plants that we're putting in, that a plan can then be formulated and can be reviewed by staff and or Mr. Martin, Mr. Brody, required, and then we will abide with that. So I think that's all I have to contribute at this point, unless there's any specific questions.
Just so that everyone's on the same page here, including myself, later as to what to do procedurally with this. So what I'm hearing you say is that one of the conditions that the applicant's willing to have as approval is the submission of an acceptable, what are we gonna call it, monitoring plan? What are we calling the
A
plan?
planting plan for
Planting plan.
the 25-foot buffer, if we will.
It's 25 foot from the wetlands, 25 foot buffer area.
We're not gonna touch the wood.
But yeah, I understand. All right, so a previously negotiated stipulation that the applicant would agree to as a condition of approval was the presentation of an approvable plan for the planting plan for the 25-foot buffer area. Correct.
And Ms. Adams, this is Marjorie Shansky for the record. Ms. Adams is going to discuss the nature and types of diversity that's intended to be planted, but to plan it in advance of the removal and see exactly what is produced by way of space and necessity. It's just appropriate to wait until the invasives removal has occurred.
Okay, understood, and we'll appreciate that feedback and preview. Another item that you just discussed here was, so am I hearing that you and Mr. Brody are in agreement that we will not be using glyphosate? We'll be using, I'm probably butchering the science words for this, the triclophor instead? Okay, so
And no
that's all.
herbicides within 25 feet.
no herbicides than 25 feet, and we'll be using triclopyr instead of glyphosate. Fair, okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay, and we will talk further about the tree issue that we did preview. We don't have any response tips on that. We're gonna hear from you, we're gonna hear from Mr.
Correct.
Roby.
Okay, one final note that I would have is, and based on the plan that has now been produced and what we're proposing to do, I could certainly with great confidence say that this is gonna be an improvement as far as the wetland and its surrounding environment. More biodiversity, removal of invasives, aesthetics will be greater, and the fact that you actually have humans that are gonna be on the property, obviously then the education, the recreation, and aesthetic functions and values also are raised from what is there now.
And I recall asking at the last meeting for a sort of an explanation as to the trees that were developer choice for removal, as in they didn't fit in the categories of disease and things like that. Or an explanation as to why we were removing those. That's going to be addressed by Ms. Adams.
That's
Correct.
Excellent. I have a objection.
My turn. Okay, good evening. For the record, oh,
1 second, 1 second.
sure.
As you said, the wetland itself is off limits to chemicals.
Absolutely.
And first 25 feet,
Also,
okay, what about the other 75 in the other one?
that's where we use triclophor.
That's where you're gonna use the stuff, okay?
Okay. All right, very good. Ms. Adams.
Yes, sorry about the interruption there. Good evening. For the record, my name is Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect and owner and principal of A2 Land Consulting. With me off to the side is Barbara Constable, my associate, just here in case she's pulling up documents and if she needs to address anything in addition, but I think I'll be able to cover everything that we'd like to talk about. I just wanted to briefly discuss a couple of the comments presented by Mr. Brogy in his review letters dated August 19th and September 10th. Mr. Logan did partially address, thank you, the second bullet point from the bottom of the September 10th letter from Mr. Brogy, noting that replanting plan after the invasive removal within that 25-foot upland review area. So I don't need to go too in depth with that, but to follow up on what Mrs. Shansky was saying is that we're happy to offer now to include a minimum of 12 clethra, 12 winterberry, 3 American hazel, and 3 American hazelnut, and 3 witch hazel. Just to say that's the minimum that we're going to do as part of that replanting plan. But as stated previously by the team, once the invasives are removed, we will do a full detailed planting plan once we're able to assess that area when the other material has been removed. It's a very typical practice. We do that on a lot of development projects because as professionals, we really want to see what's happening after the removal is done rather than doing a random blanket detailed plan for those areas. So that's what we would like to do for that. And Mr. Logan has already offered the condition of approval. So we are in agreement with that. As you can see from our design plans, we have already an extremely robust planting plan proposed for the entire site, and it's going to offer a very significant amount of wildlife habitat and food sources, and as well as a lot of plant material for pollinators for additional enhancements. Moving on, in Mr. Brogy's letter of August 19th, he provides opinion that the addition of tree planting should be considered west of the wetland to maintain existing shade cover. We have updated and submitted a revised plan to add 2 additional trees to that area. One would be a red maple and the other is a heritage river birch. So that has been updated. And then moving on, I'd like to address the Bartlett Tree Experts Executive Summary Report that was prepared in May 2024. Mr. Picard invested the time and funds needed to commission Bartlett Tree Experts to prepare this assessment. Understanding the report is a valuable tool necessary for the planning and design of this development. The study provides a very detailed understanding of the trees on the site and their current conditions. It assesses 292 trees, 6 inches caliper and greater. So just briefly, without getting into the 292 trees and things that are being removed and replanted, we did want to mention that within the immediate area of the wetlands, from the 0 to 25-foot upland area, there's 24 existing trees. We propose removing 12 of these trees. 8 of those trees were recommended for removal by Bartlett based on conditions. So right away, the arborist was saying these trees need to come out, either diseased, dead, dying, structurally unsound, and unsafe. So 8 of those already were recommended for removal by the expert. 2 of these additional trees for removal are due to construction. 1 is an invasive tree, and 1 is a 6-inch, just above a sapling, white pine that's in fair condition. We feel that while the work is being done on the site, additional work is being done, it makes sense to remove this small pine. As pines mature, they become very weak. And according to Yukon Extension College of Agriculture, there's actually reports right now of rapid yellowing and browning and needle loss on white pines throughout the state of Connecticut. This is due to a complex combination of needle fungi, commonly referred to as white pine needle disease. So this being a relatively small tree, we thought now was the time to remove that. Currently, in addition to the extensive planting plan proposed for this site, we're proposing the replacement of 9 trees within this 25-foot upland area, including red.
But for 1 second, before we
Yes.
move on to the replantings, you said there were 12 within the 25-foot buffer area. You said we're gonna remove 12.
Correct.
Eight are at the recommendation of the arborist because they're sick, unsound, structural, some sort of injury.
That is correct.
Two are due to construction, one because of it, one is an invasive species, the other is a small pine that you referenced. What about
Right.
the other two?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
That is.
That is 12. So 8, 2 for construction, 1 invasive, and the 1
Oh,
6-inch
okay.
pine.
Gotcha, so the two, okay, so the two for construction are separate from the.
Yeah,
invasive.
correct. Yes.
Okay,
Sorry for
thank
that confusion.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so in this area, we are proposing a replacement of 9 trees in this area. That includes red maple, we have dogwood, American holly, eastern red cedar, river birch, in addition to the shrub plantings that will be installed after the invasive removal. So we feel that this is a really nice replanting. It's going to bring back some of the shade that is being taken away from and during the removal of those trees. So we feel that this is an appropriate replanting for this particular area. So those were the main points I wanted to cover and just discuss that a little bit. And
Okay,
is there any questions?
yes, I have a few.
Sure.
So one of the, when we were here last month,
Yes.
and I asked the question about the trees that have been flagged for removal, as, being done for, tree stump to be removed per client. So these are the light blue trees on the drawing. You
Correct.
referenced within the 25-foot buffer area, the trees that were going to be
Right.
removed. I'm assuming that the two construction trees, the invasive and small pine fall into that category. What about other trees what about trees beyond that 25-foot buffer area in the remainder of the upper review area? Is there any justification or explanation as to which developer client request trees are being removed, why those are being taken out?
Sure. I can get into that a little bit. There's 76 trees in the upland review area, 48 Bartlett recommended to keep, and 28 Bartlett recommended to remove. So whatever Bartlett recommended to remove, we're removing.
Gotcha.
Of the 48 recommended to keep, we're keeping 18 of those.
So 30 are gone.
So 30 are going. So 12 are due to aesthetics. They're either in fair condition, they don't look great. We would like to, as part of the overall design plan for this project, we would like to remove them. We feel that it's appropriate to remove them. 10 are due to construction. So within the construction, the grading, they need to come out. They just need to be removed. And 8 are considered invasive. We've got Norway maple, tree of heaven, and black locust.
Okay, and so there's 70, what was the total of trees again?
76
76 total trees removed or total trees?
total trees.
76 total trees. 28 are removed for
Bartlett
For-
recommends removing, yep.
30, so if let me get my calculator out real quick, it's bad math.
That's all right. 12
So
removed
about-
because
about
we feel,
40% of the trees in the upland review area are gonna get removed because of aesthetics or because of the combination of aesthetics, construction, and grading.
and 8 are invasive, 8 additional are invasive.
But my math's right, about 39.5%. Yeah, okay, and well.
I mean, we have a pretty extensive replanting plan for this
I
project.
know, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay,
So 17% are being removed solely for aesthetics.
I haven't done the percentage calculation.
That seems to be 12 divided by 76 gets me 17%.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. Whichever you want to talk about next, is fine by me.
You can talk about replanting now, Barbara, Abigail.
Okay, so, 1 second, I'm just grabbing our planting plan. Where's the overall plant schedule? All right, so I didn't do a replanting within that one account of everything being replanted within this upland review area. We have about 20, maybe 30, 34 trees being replanted in this upland area. We have shrubs, we have native ground covers that are going in. I mean, right now, a huge portion of this property is invasive. So we are coming back with a significant amount of native plantings in this area, which will significantly enhance this very low functioning wetlands. And we feel that this is a very appropriate replanting plan. We feel that it's an appropriate tree removal plan. And I don't know, we feel that it is appropriate for this particular development.
Okay, so again, just so that I'm on the right math side of things, there's 76 total trees. We're taking out 28 per Bartlett for, their reasons. We're taking out 30 for developer choice. And we are replanting 34 trees.
That was just a super quick. I would have to sit and count exactly how many trees are going back in that upland area. Even at the, we'd need a minute.
Okay.
Give me just a second.
Sure.
Twenty. I was off a little bit, 20, and then we have a significant amount of evergreen trees going along the property, but I wasn't counting them towards the native planting.
So 20 trees, so 58 out, 20 in, and evergreens, are those arborvitaes?
None of those that we just counted are the arborvitaes.
No, the other ones, the evergreens that you mentioned.
We have eastern red cedar and American holly are going back in.
Okay. And that's along the property. So is it in the upland review area or just along the edge?
Along the property line is the green giant arborvitae, and those are outside of the upland review area and within the wetland. Well, 100-foot.
Okay, so 20 going out, 58 going out, 20 going in. Okay, Lynette?
So I have a question. Given that some of the trees that are coming out are substantial, they're large, mature trees, and the ones that are being planted in their place are quite small, they're, new trees. Would it be a possible strategy to leave some of the mature trees that are intended to come out eventually to maintain that shade for the wetland while the other trees have a chance to grow a bit and then maybe take them out in the future? So that shade is still there. Because I don't know how a 7-foot tree. I mean, I can't picture this. Some trees are staying, a few trees are staying, but most of them are being taken out. I don't get how that's going to shade this wetland. So it's just an idea. Maybe not take them all out right away.
Sure.
Right, so I know that shading has been entered back and forth as being an issue. From my professional opinion, by doing what we're doing within the 25-footer, that's more than enough shading. Now, one of the things that you might notice when you go up there is that there's not a lot of ground cover in the immediate perimeter of the wetland. And one of the reasons, because it is shaded. So by allowing a little bit, going to more of a partial shade further outside of the 25-footer, we're actually going to allow for some of these things that we're planting in to do well, to have a nice understory of, say, winterberry or the sweet pepper bush that's not existing there now. So in that sense, we're actually increasing the functionality of the wetland as far as habitat is concerned. And more than welcome to ask Mr. Brody what his opinion
Okay.
is.
Yes, that'd certainly be something we want to move to Mr. Brogy one after the applicant has had their chance. Anything else to add, Ms. Adams, Mr. Logan?
That's it for now, thank you.
Okay.
I have nothing else right at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brogy, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you
Um,
see me?
No.
No.
Maybe it's just as well. I'm not looking particularly well today. Um, um,
Fine.
so yes, I did talk with Mr. Logan today on two occasions about what's going on in and around the wetlands, and I did make a site visit prior to my last report. And after a discussion with George, I happened to be in Waterford today, and I went by the site again today to take a closer look at what was mapped out as invasive species extending onto and around the inland wetland area. Because I thought it looked like it was a bit of a broad brush approach. And it's a very, very well shaded area. So much so that there's in several areas around, especially to the south of the delineated wetland, there's very little growing. It's very, very well shaded. And I focus particularly on the presence of the invasive species that were being looked at for removal, um, including the euonymus and the honeysuckle, um, and to recheck myself in terms of the efficacy of applying herbicides in and around the wetland to remove these species. And frankly, I saw very little evidence of invasive species, immediately adjacent to the wetlands. And there were just a few native shrubs growing in there. And ground cover was mostly Virginia creeper and some poison ivy, and some ferns. But as I walked out, toward the north and northwest, I did see some bittersweet and some honeysuckle, basically sprouts 1 to 2 feet tall, popping out of the ground 25 to 50 feet away, and thought, we could do hand removal. I'm always a big proponent of hand removal over applying herbicides. And as I've been thinking about it, it seems to me that, applying herbicides is barely warranted within 25 feet of this wetland. In fact, I didn't see any of the invasive species that were indicated on the plan within 25 feet of the wetlands. Honestly, I'm not sure why everyone's throwing out 25 feet. But certainly within 25 to 50 feet to the northwest, I did see, some 1 to 2 foot tall sprouts coming out, as I mentioned, and they're definitely worth, going after and taking out. George has sent out a notice today regarding herbicides, and it seems to me we agree that using glyphosate is not the way to go. And glyphosate and very surgical application of some herbicide, I think would go far to address what's going on in that area, especially to the northwest. What's come up for me during this meeting is I still am struggling to get my mind around which trees specifically are coming out and I see the landscaping plan that's been presented for the area. And I'm glad that the chairman was doing the math on what's being removed and what's being added. I'm still struggling with, what are we taking out here? And is it really shown specifically on a map? I saw that the landscaping plan for the um area directly around the wetlands was provided, and the eastern red cedar, there's an eastern red cedar shown on that plan and has a canopy that's some 30 feet wide, but it's only going in at 4 to 5 feet high. And so I would imagine, Abigail, you could probably answer this, is we're projecting future growth of these plants as shown on the plan, because it seems to indicate a wider coverage than would be expected immediately after planting. My my concern is that, how much shade are we taking away from this wetland and how much shade are we adding to it? What is there now seems to be um, uh, working well for the wetland, keeping it shaded. The native species that are in and around the wetland are doing well. Um, I I just want to I'm not sure that the commission is taking away the message that we know exactly what's coming out and we know exactly what's going in and why. And I just don't feel like I've gotten my mind around specifically what the plan is here and how much more sunlight is going to be coming in after the removals and after the proposed plantings. We're really opening up this area. Um, so I just would like to hear more about that.
All right, well, I'm struggling a little bit with the fact of when you say you're not really sure what's coming out and what's staying. I mean, we have an extremely detailed plan of our tree removal. I mean, I shared it up on the screen. I'm not sure if everyone can see it, but we're very specific about what's coming out and where it's located. So, and then our planting plan, yes, it's industry standard on a planting plan to show 80 to 100% like mature growth for your planting plan. That's how we determine spacing. We never show plant material going in at install size. That's just not standard practice. It's standard practice to show the plant material at again, 80 to 100% mature size. So that's why the planting plan indicates trees and plants that way. So
How long does it take for an eastern red cedar to have a 30-foot spread?
um, I can't, I'd have to look that up. I don't know how long it's going to take to mature to that size. We are proposing these to be installed 6 to 7 feet high, just to clarify that, as opposed to 4 to 5 feet high for install, and which also is very typical for evergreen tree planting and install. I'm not sure what else I have to say about it in terms of the shade. I think Mr. Logan just presented his opinion on the fact that this is an extremely shady area and it's very low functioning. And what we are doing in this area will significantly enhance this wetland. It's a significant enhancement, and I'm not sure what else or what additional information to provide on this, where we have the extensive tree removal and very detailed plans and detailed landscaping plans.
I
It's
guess
just
that's
hard.
my question, and what I sort of want Mr. Brogy's sort of opinion on this is, the numbers of trees coming out are, which is why I was focused on, are significant. A lot of trees are coming out, whether they're invasive or not. For some of them, I mean, invasive trees provide shade just like every other sort of tree. Although I realize there are downsides for invasives. But what my question is, and we're kind of getting to it, is we're removing a lot of mature trees. We're planting, and I hear you at what size they're not baby trees, but they're also not fully mature trees. If we remove the amount of shade that this wetland is functioning in, low functioning, though it may be, depending on what degree of low functioning we want, or to accept as low functioning. Mr. Brogy, what will the health of this wetland be while we wait for these trees to mature and for some of that shade to be replaced? What will that removal of shade do to the wetland in the interim? What sort of risk are we facing?
It's difficult for me to say. Again, like I said, it's 2 hours before this meeting. I was looking at the tree removal plan and I'm looking at the landscaping plan, and it's difficult for me to get my arms around. I mean, I was out there again today for the third time. Um, and I can see the X's on the plan where the trees are to be removed, and it's hard for me to get my mind around exactly um, what's coming down, looking at the plan and looking at the field. But hearing the numbers, as Abigail and you discussed earlier, I felt surprised that this looks more like a landscaping effort around this wetland versus a preservation or restoration effort. And aside from perhaps moving a lot of fallen trees uh, from the wetland, um, and with all due respect to Bartlett and the health of trees, et cetera, I kind of feel less is better, and um, it can be enhanced with some shrubs in and around the wetlands. Um, but it looks like we're landscaping a wetland that doesn't need to be landscaped almost. And I just can't, I'm sorry, I just can't get my mind around it. And when I hear the numbers of trees that are coming out in that area, I just get the sense that where it's extremely well shaded right now to the point where there's a dearth of vegetation growing, are we really going to be opening up this canopy now, and letting in more light, and then doing plantings that will take years to grow? Um, it's it's very difficult for me to visualize.
When you say very difficult for you to visualize, I'm trying to understand what you mean by that. Do you mean that is there something that the applicant could do on these plans to help you visualize it better, to come to a opinion as to the impact on the health of the wetlands of the plan? Or is it just, or do you mean something else? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to figure out what you mean by that.
I think it would, frankly, it would take me several hours in the field with both plans in hand, putting my hands on the trees that are proposed for removal, looking at their condition and the rationale behind their removal, and then looking at where the new trees, would come in. Earlier on, I was focused on although it's a Norway maple, granted, but it is providing, some shade along the west side. That's what I was sort of focused in on, and that's where the development is sort of coming in on the west side of the wetland. But as I was walking around there today, I just, I was just really feeling the significant canopy over everything. And the more I looked at the removal plan, the more I heard tonight from Abigail, it seems surprising how much is going to be coming out, and then what's going in, and how small the trees going in are going to be. So I think it would really take being in the field, tagging the trees that are slated for removal. That's often what I've done in the past, working with other towns. When trees are slated for removal, they get tagged or taped, so you can actually go in and look to see what's coming out. Um, it's just it's very difficult to look at X's on a plan and know what it's going to look like when they come down. I agree with Mr. Logan that, taking out the fallen trees and removing the detritus from in and around the wetlands might promote some growth, and um, that's good. But the shade around the wetland, I think, is really important to maintaining, what it is today. And I get the sense that this is becoming a park versus a natural wetland, without really understanding, what's coming out.
Lynette, just for our own purposes, I see that we have to act by 10/24/25, and our next wetlands meeting is
The
the
16th.
16th of
Yep.
October. So, Mr. Brogy, I don't know what your availability is, but it sounds like we do have some time for you to do that sort of hands-on work out in the field. Is that,
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
we'd like to be heard on this.
sure, you can certainly be heard on that. I'll give you your opportunity. I'm just trying to figure out what our options are.
Let me just
So-
finish with what I need, what I would need in the field. The field, the trees that are slated for removal, I would need them tagged. I would need them labeled, so I can really grasp, what's coming out.
Uh, yes, oh, yes, Jack.
So what we're really talking about here is we've got the landscape work that's been done, the landscape architect that's laid things out. We have now the original Bartlett tree survey, which classified the trees in terms of their condition and everything else. And Mr. Brody is basically saying he'd like to do a peer review of that, using a different method, including field verification. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Mr. Brogy, does that sound accurate to you?
Yes.
One additional question I have for you, Mr. Brogy. I imagine that, well, my understanding would be that to take out this number of mature trees, we're talking about the removal of 58 trees within the 100-foot upland review area. That will require a fair amount of machinery going in to remove the tree, to cut down the trees, B, to remove the fallen trees. And then I don't know what the plan is, and perhaps Ms. Adams or Mr. Logan can fill me in on what we're going to do with the stumps and the remaining tree and sort of what's going to happen after we cut down these. So we're looking at 58 trees that you can cut down, removed, and then something done with the stumps. What is that going to do to the level of machinery there? What impact, if any, will that have on?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, and it brings up erosion control measures and restoration. We don't know. They haven't specified what tree removal means.
Thank you. We'll give unless you have anything else further at this time, we'll give the applicant a chance to respond to your comments and to the questions that spread, unless there's anyone from the commission have any other questions for Mr. Rowe. Okay, so,
I'm fine, thank you.
thank you. Ms. Jaskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These plans have been in Mr. Brody's possession for weeks. So I'm taken aback by the notion that when he goes there today, he's suddenly not able to grasp with what's coming out, what's coming in. There have been weeks to determine that. My client tells me that every tree is marked. So the idea that there requires to be another kind of designation is redundant and superfluous. I'm also, and I know that Mr. Logan has relevant substantive things to say. I'm grappling with the legal issue of what is the adverse impact on the wetland? That the shade is going to be transferred for a different selection of shade? There are not wild trout in this wetland that are going to be adversely affected as a result of the shade changing. The ecosystem immediately around it changing for a time. So exactly to this Wetlands Commission, what is the adverse impact? What is the quantifiable adverse impact that you're concerning yourself with a number of trees? Because I understand, but there is no evidence aside from that the shade construct is going to be altered, subject to the replanting and the growing and the reemergence of and changing dynamics of the shade. What is it that this Wetlands Commission from a wetlands impact is concerned about? The mere change in the shade complex is not enough.
Well, that's my question, Mr. Brogy, is what will the changing of the shade complex have on the wetlands? His response is right now that he doesn't have the information, or he's not satisfied with the information that he has to put there. So I understand we have Mr. Logan, you're expert, and we have Mr. Brogy as well as also an expert. Sometimes the experts don't agree. And sometimes the experts need more information to make an opinion, which is what I'm hearing Mr. Brogy said. So unless Mr. Logan's going to say, and Mr. Brogy will agree with him, that a changing shade structure will have no impact. It's impossible for that to have a negative impact on the wetlands. I think we should afford ourselves the opportunity to learn what the removal of 58 trees will have.
Maybe,
Maybe we should ask that question and get an opinion on.
but only if there's a nexus with the wetland, because the mere loss of trees or the assertion of dominion over
Okay.
one's own property, and even in the change of one tree to
Let's-
another,
let's-
is not the,
Let's hear from Mr. Logan and Mr. Brogy as to whether or not it is not for this plan, because you're raising the question as to a nexus between possibilities, whether the removal
Well,
of
I'm just
significant
saying-
amount of shades could have a negative
this is
impact. Because if
speculative.
Mr. Logan's willing to say that it won't have, that there's no way that the removal of shade will have a negative impact on the wetland, well, that's an interesting question. I don't know that he's prepared to offer.
I have some opinions to offer, of course.
Sure.
Preliminarily, the thing that I'm a little disappointed about is that I thought that the fact that I think all agreed and came to consensus that this is not a particularly high functioning wetland at all. It's very, very limited in its functions and values, and something that I also documented in my report. That I thought we were at the end of making some substantive compromises on our part and coming to some agreement about certain things, that we were almost bringing this ship into the harbor, but apparently for some reason, we hit a show. So, let me say this. I could go into the weeds, so to speak, and provide information to the commission, which I thought I did in some respects, that if we looked at the variety of functions and values that are currently provided, and then throwed at that fact, and then guess the factor that we're all considering here is shade. How would that factor affect the functionality and value of this particular wetland? Without going into the weeds right now, my opinion would be that it is really not significant. I've told you before, I think, that there are many wetlands out there, some of them considered critical habitats, that are open, that have partial shade or no shade, and they're highly valuable, highly diverse, with high component of wildlife usage, etc. So what I was envisioning here is not a park, but it's something that would take some effort by removing the invasives, and of course, the removal of invasives would have to be done in a way that it's not going to impact the wetland. That goes without saying. So whether it's something that's supervised by someone like myself or someone like Abigail or Barbara, that the end of the story would be that we would have something that we would plant and to leave it alone. So it would do whatever it would do. The nature seems to do better than we would plan sometimes. So it's not something that we would manicure from now on and consider a park. It would be a natural area that we have actually enhanced by some good effort and thought. I think this is a very robust plan. You don't see all the vegetation that we're proposing here because some of it we said we would do after we see what it looks like, similar to what Mr. Brogy is saying for now. He's looked at it, he possibly wants to look at it again. We would want to look at it after we remove the trees, we remove the invasives mechanically within 25. With some very judicious amount of application of herbicide, trichopyronia beyond that. Look at it and say, okay, so we have some minimum plantings that we've proposed. You've all heard about them. And we're going to turn this into something that is much more valuable, much more functioning than what it is today. I think most of you have seen it. It really doesn't amount to anything. There's nothing in there that we have recorded, myself or Mr. Brogy or anyone else, the Davidson brothers or Mr. Snarsky, that says there's something living here, plant or animal, that is exceptional, of exceptional quality. So we're kind of stuck on shade, and I'm a little ashamed to say, but I don't agree with Mr. Brogy that shade is a big issue here. The issue is how we're going to affect the plan in a way that's going to end up benefiting this wetland in this environment.
Okay. Did you have something
I
else?
actually do have a question. I was trying to figure this out before. So in the landscape plan, the cross-hatched area, I'm guessing from the legend that that's going to be perennials, ornamental and ornamental, no. I'm not really sure what's happening. In addition to the trees, what is happening in this area around the wetland? Does anybody?
That's
No.
for Abigail.
So you've got trees, which the plan says will be limbed up to 8 feet. And then what's gonna be on the ground?
It's on the note to the right of the drawing.
Right, what, so,
0 to 25 feet, install mix of native material, including, lecture, swamp rose, wood hazel, holidays.
Are you looking at the,
what sheet are you on?
are you looking at the one submitted at the last meeting or the updated one?
The updated landscaping plan of 3.
Correct. Correct. So the hatch is purely just indicating that's the area that we're going to assess after invasives have been removed and provide that replanting plan based on that assessment after the removal. I also want to clarify just a couple of things. The reason we're sort of talking about this 0 to 25 feet, only 12 trees are being removed in that area, and those are the trees that are really providing the shade in this area. It's not all of the 48 or 58 trees that are being removed. That's not there's 12 coming out, 9 are going in, along with an extensive amount of shrubs that we can plant close to the wetland when we do this replanting plan. I'd also like to state that there's no reason that a mitigation and enhancement replanting plan can't look landscaped and be beautiful. That is our job. That is our charge to enhance a property, both environmentally and aesthetically. So I want to make that clear because there's a lot, this looks like a park. Forget the rest of the site. That's neither here nor there. It is our charge to make whatever we are doing look beautiful and also function the way that it should. Again, we are completely enhancing this area. So I just wanted to make that clear, and then I also wanted to mention that 25 feet with the trees. I also had a quick question where it was stated that Mr. Brogy would do somewhat of a peer review of the Bartlett. I don't believe that Mr. Brogy is an arborist, so I just wanted to understand what was being discussed there and the qualifications for that, or if it was purely just an understanding of what's being removed and what's being introduced.
I'll let Mr. Brogy answer that part, because that goes directly with his sort of opinion as to what information he would like to gather between the saying that he does now. You referenced the 12 trees going out within the 25-foot upland review area that are mature trees, except for the one small pine, I think you mentioned, that is relatively small. 9 going back in. How many trees are currently in that 25-foot upland review area? Or the 25-foot upward area that we're calling it? We're taking 12 out, we're putting 9 back in. How many are there now?
There's 24 there now, so we're taking out half.
I have a question, just from the sake of a tree is a good thing. Looking at the other 75 feet, Abigail, with removal of disease, damage, defectives, which is worthy. Of the remaining, going to that number 50, how many of those could be saved just for the sake of saving a tree? Do those all have to come out? Because those are good standing mature trees, I take it. That has nothing to do with the wetlands. I'm just asking from a conservation perspective.
Yeah, this is what the proposal is. I mean, there's just some that we think makes sense to come out, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to remove some trees for aesthetic reasons, and then also the invasive and the and the construction. Some of these were listed as fair condition. They're not great. They're not good. They're fair according to the arborist that we hired. Some are in good condition, but a lot of them are in fair condition, which is another reason, and they appear to be somewhat declining. So that's another reason why we would like to take them out while all of this construction is happening.
I was just advocating
Yeah.
for good, healthy, mature trees being left alone. If any of those.
Four. We have four of those.
Four.
Four. Good, healthy and non-invasive that we could potentially look, we could discuss with the owner that we could keep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd like to get back to Mr. Logan's comments and relating to Attorney Shancy's comments about the impact of shade and whether or not we can consider shade as having a negative impact on a wetland. Not,
Under the law, the impact, the adverse impact has to be quantifiable and likely, not just, ooh,
no.
there's going to be a thermal effect.
I understand, and we're not at that stage of what we're gonna do with it now. We're at the information gathering stage now, is where I'm here. So, Mr. Logan, independent of this plan, and then we understand your opinion on it, your opinion's been very clear. You think that that the plan that's proposed is going to enhance this well. We understand that is your opinion. However, is there a scenario in which the removal of shade from a wetland could have a substantial negative impact on a wetland?
Generally speaking?
Yes.
Sure. So, I'll give you an example. If this was a vernal pool, which this qualified as not being one, and the critters, the alphabet species that we're using, it will be salamanders and wood frogs. The quality of the water would be affected during that early portion of the spring, where there's a combination of openness. It's not, it means more sunlight. And also there's some, from the detritus and all the decay that's happened in the winter, there is a plethora of nutrients. If you have too much light during that time, when the leaves are starting to come out, you might affect the quality of the vernal pool and create an algal scum or something like that, which would not be as conducive to the amphibians breeding there. So there are examples that I could cite. But that's not what I'm seeing here.
That's not what's here by a succession of experts. But also in your example, if there were wood frogs and the temperature were going to impact their survival, they are the one exception under the Riverbend case where there would be legitimate jurisdictional control over that impact to that wetland. This is not that wetland.
Sure. I understand, and I understand his opinion
But it's
that
a
he's
narrow-
rendered.
It's a narrow remit and a very specific nexus between activity and impact.
I understand that is the finding that we will eventually have to make. However, what I'm pushing back on is your assertion that we're on a fool's errand here to be even considering whether or not a shade will have an impact, because I don't think we are.
Well, we haven't identified any effect of the fact that the shade percentage or the shade timing or the whatever may be in flux for a period.
Yeah, so someone has to come up with a suite of species that currently reside here or use this.
Well, but there are no species except for the wood
Exactly.
frog that are protected. It may be a fool's errand, or it may be a legitimate inquiry that resolves in not our issue.
Could be, could well be. Another question that I had that I don't think we've touched on, one way or the other, is the controls and the impact on the wetlands of the removal, of the cutting down of 58 trees. And the removal of the stumps and what level that's gonna have, what sort of equipment that's going to require, and what controls are gonna be in place to make sure that that doesn't have an impact.
So,
I don't know that that has been addressed in the plans.
so I see two tiers of that. One tier would be what's happening within 85 feet of the wetland. And the other one's what's happening outside. I would say that what's happening outside could be easily taken care of in the field by appropriate hay bale, say. So if we're removing a tree and it's gonna expose an area, then obviously we want to be sure that we don't have a storm coming in and all the stuff comes down to the wetland. I think within the 25 feet, we're gonna have to be a little more surgical. So that might mean that we have to flush cut and grind in place if it's a larger tree. We'll do whatever we need to do so not to disturb soil to the extent that it's going to then mobilize potentially and get into the wetland. We've done that before. Flush cut, grind in place. And plant.
Okay, and are those? My understanding is that sort of, those precautions are not reflected on any of the plans.
But it's certainly admirable.
And that would be a condition of approval, is to provide the protocols and protections.
Okay,
What we're talking about is, if this moves to construction, having a set of specifications that outline the sequence and also the limitations that will have to be followed. For instance, you don't take two trees out at the same time. I'm just throwing it out as an example. It's removed, the area is prepared, it's renovated as necessary, you move on. And part of that is going to, how robust is the sedimentation and erosion control going to be around the actual perimeter of the wetland? That's going to have to be included.
and, okay, do we have any, I'm going, procedurally, what I want to now is give Mr. Brogy a chance to respond to everything that we've discussed, including, Ms. Adams's question, sort of specific question about what sort of analysis Mr. Brogy is intends to do regarding, what his analysis and what that would look like relative to the Bartlett tree report as to, I think the Bartlett tree report, especially vis-a-vis the sort of the health of the trees and those sorts of things. That's something he's going to be looking at, or is it just more of a what more information he tends to gather? I think that's a question that's fair for him to answer, as well as to sort of opine as to the impact on the shade could have, in his opinion, on the wetland and what that can be.
My name is Michael Ricardo. I would like to be heard on this.
Certainly, absolutely, and I would like to know, I believe that Attorney Shansky represented that the trees for removal have already all been flagged. I guess I would like to know.
So I want to clarify some things from the record. So
Sure.
before, as you know, this property has been, I've been involved in the property and owned the property for 5 years. 5 years. The property and just, because unfortunately what happens with these meetings as they go on, I think we miss the overall global picture of what is happening in these circumstances. And then we tend to go into some minutia and things to that nature. Before I bought the property, I walked the property with Richard Snarsky, who is a soil scientist and an expert. Mr. Ott was my engineer, he was there, and we were toying with what we were going to do with this property. Initially, we were considering, because it's a very large property, it's 10 acres, but it's been in disrepair for some 20 years. It has buildings that are in wetlands and in tidal wetlands and what have you. This wetland in question, Mr. Snarsky, and I said this for the record before, he said this wetland's a piece of shit, it really should be filled in. Over time, I've gotten, and I realized in this process, and no disrespect to Mr. Brogy here, but everyone has their own opinions and they have their own prejudices. I know this because I own another piece of property in town that was a waste dump that we violated, and now it has more trees on it than we have in the national forest. So I'm not so certain that the conditions of those wetlands, these inland wetlands, are really enhanced by these things. It's very difficult for me to get accuracy, and we're drilling down, and you mentioned the world, is it, these efforts for no. I think when you work really hard to make sure to try to be difficult about this, sometimes I think that's where we go. So I hired Bartlett, we spent $5,500 on this. 3 years ago. The goal was, because the property was previously developed and has largely gone overgrown, I knew, because people like yourself, sir, believe, and this is the struggle that people like we get into. They take a property that's fully wooded and probably overgrown for years, and the thought of cutting all this down to develop it, you know, it's like a lot of trees are gonna go, right? You know, now, everyone will have a difference of opinions on whether that should happen or not, right? But in this case, we're trying to redevelop that site that's been sort of undeveloped for a long time into 4 homes, and those homes are gonna be where people want to live in and have manicured around it. And we have a approximately 2,000-foot area in approximately 10 acres of property that have soil conditions that are, as I understand this, that are wetland soils. And one of the task was, and we've had 3 different people work on this, Starsky, who doesn't do this any longer, the Davidsons, who basically had very similar suggestions. And there was, that this is a very low functioning, it almost had, I mean, I've heard the words, there's really nothing living here, come out. Mr. Logan, also from Davidson and Starsky. So we have something that is soil content, something that we're trying to protect, a soil condition that has very little ecological benefit. It was suggested to us that we perhaps create an ecological scenario and redevelop it and plant and irrigate and do lots of things that could bring ecological benefits. And this commission said, no. We know this is not functioning, but it is what it is, and we just don't, our prejudice here is we don't believe in any destruction or any filling of a wetland. It's the devil we know, all right? So now we're looking at this, and I went to Mr. Logan and I said, is this what we're looking to do here? I don't want to touch this wetland. It has no value. Ecologically, let's not go in there. However, we are looking to develop the property for residential houses, so people will want to absorb, would want to enjoy the property as much as they can. They may not want huge mature trees, their limbs have fallen down, they haven't been manicured in their multi-million-dollar properties, all right? So yes, the goal here is to take a wetland by soil content that has been largely overgrown forever, buildings falling down. In fact, Mr. Brogy in this commission even had comments about, you know, about the demolition of those buildings and ground conditions. And many of these things were not even in the purview of this 2,000 square foot piece of dirt that we're trying to protect. I mean, I went ahead voluntarily and had every tree, and that has been in this office, that report, even previously. There is a tag on every single tree, metal tag, every tree. So to say, oh, I have to get back out there with my peers and I need to see, you know, if Bartlett's really right. Where does this people get this education that the people that are arborists who basically looked at the condition of it are right or wrong? I mean, I think we're getting so arbitrary here. You did ask him specifically, does shading have an effect on a wetland? That's a very good question. What we understand is, and then I guess that we have to do it further, within 25 feet of this wetland, and because something I heard it mentioned today, 50 and 100 feet away, there's no way that shade has a bearing on that 2,000 foot hole, 2,000 square foot hole in the ground. No way. We're getting into the weeds. I mean, if I understand, I feel that the goal of this commission is to be as difficult as possible in these approvals. Partially, I believe it's because who's involved and who's sitting on the other side of this table. And it's if this happens, Picard wins and the town loses. The reality of it is we're trying to redevelop this. We have a wetland soil. We want to make it as nice as possible. The goal here was to enhance it. There are trees there that you may feel are great to keep, but Bartlett doesn't think so. And we tried to take a very educational approach and say, let's keep what we believe will keep it shaded, something that will look nice, which is, you know, something that is, Mr. Brogy said, and I find it offensive. Something that is like a landscape. Yes, this is a landscape. There's nothing written where, because you have a wetland soils and you have a non-functioning wetland, that you cannot dress around it plantings in a plan that doesn't look nice. Some people, I think people think because you have a wetland agency, within 100 feet, they own it, and it's gotta look like like it's ours, and no one can touch it. And the tone of where this is going is appalling to me. But I just wanted to say, we've spent a lot of time, these plans are not unclear. Abigail and her company labeled everything, including ground cover. People haven't read them. That plan from Bartlett has been here for a long time, so it's labeled. So I think a lot of what's been discussed here is arbitrary in nature. There's been suggestions about keeping trees. What is the purpose of trying to keep a tree 50 or 100 feet away? I mean, to something that doesn't have anything living in it. I don't really understand why this much effort is going into this, other than we're looking for reasons to, you know, to put personal bias into this and try to renege this application. But we've done the work, we've spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on efforts to try to develop this property. And we're in front of you because you are a wetland commission, and we are supposed to focus specifically on those soils. And they can't be detriment to those soils, but we cannot be looking to the moon to see what could we do to possibly improve this, or because there isn't an answer to that. If the task going forward is that I have to hire more arborists and national professionals to say how much shade is necessary with this wetland versus that, which I don't know that you can do that. We'll, you know, because it's arbitrary to some extent, we'll go there. Mr. Brogy has his, I work with him, he's a very nice man, but he has his, you know, his bias. He likes big trees. He likes to keep them. I saw it at the other property, you know, and you know, this property is overgrown. It hasn't been developed, and we're looking to develop it. And unfortunately, a lot of trees are gonna come down. You know, that's just it. Whether I went to this wetland or not, all right? You know, to move us within 100 feet of this irregular property and say, you can't cut those trees, it doesn't make sense. We would like to save the ones that are nice and good, but I don't want to come back here later in life and say, like this one in particular, the stinky pine tree. We were told that, you know, what, it's healthy, but it gets the disease. So why come back to the commission later? Why not now replant it? And for the replanting, you asked a question about the replanting. Have you seen the level of how much since we did zero? When you planted the trees, how quickly they grew and how much they grew?
One thing I just want to put on the record now, we're not considering, you have brought up other developments you've done in town. This commission has not brought up other developments you've done in town. This commission is not considering other developments that you've done in town. That is not something I just want to make clear for every record, that we aren't considering that.
It's very hard for me to believe that, because I've seen the way this commission operates. And we're looking for something here. We're looking for something. You know, this morning you were in the office with this lady and you weren't allowed to speak in front of my about these people in front of it, like it was a big hush hush. I know what goes on here. Focus on the facts. It's a bad wetland. It does not have a value. We offered to create something better. You chose not to. Now we want to improve it. Yes, we want to improve it in concert with building 4 houses there and to landscape it. I mean, I know we're working all around this and everybody's talking in legal jargons and all these kind of things. I'm getting right to the point. These trees within 25 feet of this thing should create some shade if it could possibly improve this. We should plant materials that are in conjunction with wetlands that could enhance it and maybe create more wildlife there, all of which is good. To worry about trees that are 50 or 100 feet, think about this. You were doing the numbers, and when you're starting to do the numbers, to me, that when you're talking about percentages, what does that matter? It has to have an impact on this. Should I say, look, should we start talking about volume? If I take 100 feet of a circumference around that, how much volume is that as a percentage to the wetland? I bet you very large. Are we gonna start getting into these kind of arguments? unless we're looking for an end, you know, unless we're looking to we predetermine what we're doing and we want to get to some other place. But I could ask the facts, and I bet you 100-foot circumference around that little hole is a huge area. And I can't imagine, to protect that wetland and what grows and lives there, going 100 feet outside of it by cutting trees is gonna have a negative impact on that. There's just no way that a tree 100 feet away can do it. And we have lots here that aren't even 80 feet wide in this town. So we've got to put this in perspective. There's been an enormous amount of efforts that are going into in an area that I feel are going way a junction. And I think there's, you know, there's some biases that are coming here, including on your professionals. And I want to note it for the record.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Brogy, I'd like to give you the opportunity to respond to a few things. One regarding we heard the answer that the trees are already marked and have been. So we heard the trees are marked, which is probably positive. And regarding what further work you would like to do in the field in relation to the work that has been done by Bartlett, as well as the question of shade and the potential impact of shade on wetlands and this wetland. And anything else you'd like to respond?
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I heard Attorney Shancy correctly, and I just heard the applicant describe that the trees that are slated for removal are marked. Again, I was out there today. I took some 18 photographs of the area around the wetland, and I didn't see any markings on the trees. Often the arborists may mark them with paint, and it was several years ago. I did not see any markings on any trees, and that made it, you know, even more difficult to try and make sense of the plan. So if they're marked, you know, I did not see that they were marked. And you know, my suggestion that, you know, taking a look at the trees that are to be removed specifically, I think is important. And between my site visit today and the conversations tonight on the meeting, and I apologize that perhaps it didn't dawn on me earlier that, you know, so many trees are going to be removed within 100 feet. And which trees they are specifically didn't resonate or didn't crystallize for me until, you know, fairly recently. And I apologize for bringing this up sort of last minute. But I think it's important. Your landscape architect mentioned something about trees within 25 feet are the ones that are most important in terms of casting shade. You know, I respectfully, you know, disagree with that. You know, trees, certainly 75-foot trees will cast a 150-foot shadow. And so the 25-foot number keeps getting brought up here tonight, and I really don't know why, other than in my view of the site today, I did not see invasive species that were mapped across the wetland on documents submitted, you know, were there. And that led to my, you know, conclusion that we did not need to apply any herbicides within that zone. But other than that, I don't know why we keep talking about 25 feet from the wetland. Certainly, I think the trees further from that radius, you know, could be important. It depends on, you know, specifically which trees are slated for removal. No, I'm not an arborist. I do not look at the health of trees to determine, you know, their future, you know, viability, etc. I do think about habitat and think about shade, certainly, and I think about existing conditions. And that's really what I'm talking about is this plan with trees to be removed and trees to be planted and future shrubs to be installed, as indicated, going to, you know, maintain, you know, existing conditions in and around this wetland. And
Mr. Brogan, what
Hold
may I ask?
on, hold on. No, we're not opening the floor for back and forth directly with him. We're not doing that. He'll get a chance to finish and you'll get a chance to respond, but we're not gonna have you inquire. Thank you. Mr. Rhodes.
So- As much as, the experts agree that this is a quote unquote low functioning wetland, I have to come back to the place that this is a freshwater source in an area where there are little, if any, freshwater sources in the area near a tidal wetland. And as much as we're not allowed to, protect wetland dependent species other than the wood frog, as Marjorie Shansky's pointed out, I suppose, in my mind, and I must say that I'm not biased toward the applicant and I'm not biased toward this project. It's not my role to undermine projects. I take it upon my role to advise the commission and to make existing projects better. I never want to, it's not my role to undermine or torpedo anything. I'm just here to, share what I think and what I know, and what I think is responsible to make, existing projects better. And that's how I view my role. And so this is a freshwater source here. And there may be, I'm sure there are species that come through that rely on that fresh water as a drinking water source. And that I believe firmly that we want to ensure that maintaining existing conditions and or enhancing existing conditions is really important. And today being on the site and again looking at the plans over and over, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around, the 58 trees that are going to be coming out and which trees are going to be installed and how they're shown on the landscaping plans in the short term. And certainly, if you're taking out a lot of trees and putting in smaller trees, there's going to be a gap in shade cover. There's going to be a gap in tree canopy. There's going to be a disparity between existing conditions and future conditions. And so my goal is to try and close that gap responsibly. And I think it's possible in this application, quite frankly.
And I asked Mr. Logan the question, I'll ask you the question as well, because it was brought up. Is there a scenario where the depletion of shade, I guess the depletion or increase in shade, could have a substantial negative impact on a wetland?
Certainly, I mean, there's evaporation as a result of direct sunlight contact, increased temperatures. That certainly happens. And it's a potential physical impact on the existing wetland. And it's something that I'm looking to ensure that we avoid as part of this application.
Okay, thank you, sir. And do any commission member, I'll get to you in a second, Attorney Shansky. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Brogan in light of his comments? Okay,
I just wanna. Counting up the trees could be invasive. We've seen that too, what the real number is. It looks like if you look back at the Bartlett, it's that the total population is about 300.
of that whole site.
The whole site, because Bartlett did the entire site, but this section. And the total that they recommended for removal was about 100, so about a third of that. To the landscape architect, just one question. How many trees are within this project area relative to the wetland we're talking about? How many trees are coming out within the 100-foot upland area?
I think she said 58 coming out of the area.
58?
And yes, and 12 of 24 are coming out within 25 feet, right?
That is correct.
Well, but our jurisdiction is
Yeah,
100 feet,
sure,
so
yeah.
58 are coming out, and how many new ones are we putting in?
In that particular area, I believe we had 20. 20 trees and, a lot of shrubs are gonna be being replaced also. We're adding in a bunch of native shrubs.
All right, so 50, within our upland area, right up to the wetland. 58 trees are coming out
Yes,
and 20 new ones are going in. So the net loss is 38. Which for the entire site is something just on the high side of 10%. Okay.
Any other questions from commission members? Yes.
Have one slight question about the tree removal, going back to when you were talking about the hay baling. So when you are removing the trees, obviously they have a substantial root system just because they're old growth trees. Is the hay baling going to be set in place to help the erosion loss? Because I know you're talking about like, oh, if there's a storm coming through, we're not gonna remove trees. But the thing that I'm personally getting just a little bit caught up in is the erosion of the soil from the large root systems coming out of the trees. Because when those newer trees come in, they aren't going to obviously have as extensive of a root system. So if you just had a moment to speak on that, just a little bit for clarification.
Yeah, I think since it sounds like we're gonna have a little time between now and the next meeting, we're going to get a little bit more specific as to how that's gonna work. What I'm envisioning is, and Mr. Brody will hopefully, and I will be able to go out there together, maybe, and look at this situation, put our heads together. There could be trees there that will be removed within close proximity to the wetlands, so say the 25 zone, maybe a little bit further. That depending on their size and the root system, kind of tree it is. We might have to take extra precautions as to what happens when either the root system is removed, or as I suggested, maybe some couple of critical trees that are not too close. Those are flush cut, and then we basically grind the stumps in place. That becomes substrate of the soil for planting. So it's, you know, what's gonna happen is the roots are gonna decay in place and become part of the soil.
Appreciate that clarification, thank you.
You're welcome. One thing I'd like to say, I mean, I know that we talked about, we asked Mr. Brody about, what would happen in his mind, what he envisions could happen by lack of shade or more shade. He mentioned evaporation, but I might point out that the evaporation ocean is almost an order of or two of magnitude less than the ocean of evapotranspiration, which trees and shrubs put on. Think of the leaf mass. So the evaporation is, even if we removed all the canopy, the evaporation based on the amount of water that we've seen there might not really be an adverse impact as far as the removal of water. How long the water will be there. But again, we're not exactly doing that, we're also planting, so.
Attorney Chance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remind the commission that at the last meeting, I shared that I had reviewed the ordinance on peer reviewing, and I didn't think that this application even met that threshold, but by that time, Mr. Brody had written a letter, so, you know, onward. But that this commission voted that this is not a significant activity. That was your determination at the last meeting. So my two questions through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Brody. Well, first, an observation. Mr. Brody in his recent comment said that he's made some comment about maintaining existing conditions. There's no standard of maintaining existing conditions. The goal is not to maintain existing conditions. The goal is to conduct regulated activity without adverse impact. That is not synonymous with maintaining existing conditions. So if that's his standard, he's not, you know, he's got an artificial goal there that is unfair and not supported by any of the literature. My question for him through you is to articulate, oh wait, I'm sorry to interrupt myself one more time. When you asked him, when the chair asked him, the significance of the freshwater wetland and he said there may be species that come through that rely on that drinking water. They're not protected by this agency. They're not part of your remit. We all are interested in the welfare of migratory fowl and birds, but that is not part of the factor on what's an impact or not, because they're not within the statute. So my question to you, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Berkey, is exactly what is the impact that he is concerned with relating to shade? Because I think we can agree that taking some trees down and planting others will alter that regime for a period. And my question to him is, so what? In, you know, the respectful intellectual way.
So I didn't take it any other way. And I think he did touch on that when he talked about, because I did ask him directly, and I thought he provided an answer, but with that, we can ask him again, Mr. Brody, could you describe for us the impacts that the depletion of shade would have on this wetland? Not saying, sir, that you haven't, that you stated before quite clearly that you don't feel that you have quite enough information and you want to explore more, but what is the concern that you have that is prompting you to seek more information?
Based on my experience in the last 35 years in the state of Connecticut, it's hard for me to imagine that there is no impact to a wetland when you are changing the existing conditions in and around that wetland, both from vegetation and shade. It's the composition, the species composition, the amount of sunlight getting in there. You're changing, you're physically altering the wetland area. And in my mind, as flawed as it may be, I suppose, you're changing the character of the wetland. You're changing the habitat surrounding the wetland, the species composition, changing the sunlight that's getting there now. And my mind, my goal, my thoughts are around preserving existing conditions in and around wetlands physically. And when you significantly alter those conditions by removing vegetation and changing internal temperatures as a result of increased sunlight, you're creating physical alterations to the wetland. And again, I will restate that I think that it's possible to accomplish this in the context of this application.
So the concern that you've expressed is that removing that I hear, and correct me if my summary is inaccurate, please, that the removal of the shade has the potential to create physical changes to the physical characteristics of the wetland.
Yes.
Do we have a percentage of what the change may be?
Right.
It's difficult for me to assess that without physically seeing the marked trees that are proposed for removal and physically seeing a plan that enumerates additional shrub plantings as the applicant has stated without seeing it on a plan.
Because in my mind, and I certainly am not qualified as you are or others here, a change of 10% is one piece of evidence. If it's greater than 50%, then that's something to be very concerned about. So in my thinking of what we're listening to and what we're seeing, I think that is critical to this application.
I agree. I think it's important to see exactly what's being removed. And exactly what's being proposed for installation before you can really make a determination. And again, I think it's quite possible in this context.
I'd like to sort of get a handle on the physical markings of the trees. What are we, what should he be looking for? What didn't he see? I'm thinking that what he's looking for is, you know, an orange ribbon around the tree. I'm hearing there's a tag, like a
Aluminum
trail,
tags.
like a trail hiking tag.
There are
So what do we got here?
Aluminum tags.
Okay, aluminum, how big and where?
And as a matter of fact, yeah, I saw a few of them, I didn't look for the rest of them, and I was like, I don't even know what these are, and then I'm like, oh yeah. A forester came through here, and they basically tagged the numbers, so there's a tag and a number, so you can go to their little list and say, okay, this is tree 77.
Okay, so tree 77 on the plan.
Right.
That was the original part of the plan should align to tag 77 out in the woods.
But I think that it would be helpful for Mr. Rogan, and I would agree, because if I was doing what he's asking to do, I would want this. Is we would have to go out there and say, okay, these are the trees removed, we have the tags, and then we put a certain color around that tree. Pink, say, or whatever, stripes. And that's the tree to be removed, and the rest are not.
Okay.
I'd like Mr. Brokey to go with Mr. Logan,
Sure.
if that's where we're going, but I would also, state that Mr. Brokey, talked about an impact to the wetland. And impact is not synonymous with adverse impact. So we are still skirting around non-applicable language that does not control the standard to which this commission is, held. I just state for the record. And if we're nearing an end, I have another comment to make, but I'll wait.
I think we are nearing an end, and I hear you, that to the extent that Mr. Brokey will offer an opinion as to the impact, when he feels he has sufficient information to do so, that it would be tailored to our statutory remit.
And quantifiable and likely not possible.
I think that all falls under our
Because
statutory remit.
everything we're hearing right now is highly speculative.
Duly noted. You have one other comment that you wish to make?
I just want to say that if we leave a wetland alone and nurture it with replacement plantings and native species and distance and breathing room and leave the wetland alone and at the low functioning by the agreement of at least 4 soil scientists, and that is not able to pass muster, and then with the endorsement of your expert, proposing to fill that wetland and do a mitigation wetland elsewhere on the property that would have a higher function, that if there's no land, no possibility as between, we're getting close to a confiscation. And the effort of this applicant, including the inclusion of the tree study, has been legitimate and bona fide and committed to knowing the parcel, the 10-acre parcel, 50% of which is tidal wetlands and gateway setback, all of that's being honored. This is just the 5 acres of upland in which the development is being proposed. So this is not some sort of harebrained idea that has just been slapdashed onto a plan. This is a very methodical, thoughtful plan that seeks to honor what this commission at the last application determined to be its preference: preserve the wetland. It is here before you.
If I may, you asked the chairman, said I can speak then.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think in the go forward, because of the nature of this property, the property is actually completely fenced and secured. So I don't know how Mr. Brokey, you know, and not that I have an issue with it, but I don't know how he keeps getting into it, or he must be climbing the fence. I think it would be best in the future, if we're gonna have visits from the commission or people, that we arrange as a time and frame, and we do have our tree experts and I would like to be present, or someone from my organization, because we're spinning a lot of wheels here. And then the other, because the Bartlett tree thing, which has been here, has been, when Mr. Logan said, tree 77, it's on a map with the tag on it. So it was been there, and then Abigail Adams and Company actually labeled on the plan the trees to come out and what's going in. So, you know, there's a lot of trees there, and I understand when you look at them, it gets overwhelming. I would like to know, and part of this, so I understand. The condition, keeping the condition of an existing wetland. Or its surroundings. Is that the duty of this commission? Because, I mean, I was under the estate, so, you know, we're supposed to be protecting the wetland. So when someone says to me, we have something that's low functioning, but we could do these things to make it better. But of course, it's gonna change its existing condition. Is that not part of the goal? If the existing conditions of something that is low function, it may have other material benefits, like you guys said. It may, Mr. Brogy mentioned, you know, where his opinions are is, you know, trees have a long, you know, has an impact. People, animals and things drink out of those waters. Lots of things occur in an existing condition, and there is certainly a task to try to keep an existing condition. But in terms of the wetland, it should have its own function, correct? It has a function. It's a soil type, it has a function for ecology, that for plants and things like that. And if you have one that is low functioning, and you can try to make it better functioning, would that not be part of the goal, as opposed to just keeping the existing conditions as they are?
It's an excellent rhetorical question.
It is an excellent rhetorical
And
question.
without an adverse impact.
Without an admin, I see, oh, yes, so. The hypothetical questions you presented, the rhetorical question you presented, yes, we will look at the impact of the activity for which you have applied to see what the impact will be on the wetland that is in our jurisdiction. That's what we do.
So thank you, but as part of that, an enhancement or an improvement would be likely that something that would be considered, correct? Is part of your task.
It's part of the mosaic.
Part of the mosaic, and then simply to try to keep an existing environment because it's nice, you know, because it could have other impacts, animals, other wildlife, deer, what have you, eagles, things like that. Those things are, while they may be nice and part of consideration, that's not necessarily directly part of this commission's task. Is that correct?
Our task, we're tasked with fulfilling our statutory mandate. Put it to you that way.
Activity. They're tasked with regulating activity. They are not the Conservation Commission, although at times we have had some mission creep here.
That's actually where I was going. Okay, so, all right, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Okay. So I will make a motion
I
that.
just have
Jake,
one
go
more,
ahead.
and, maybe the architect or the landscape architect. How many trees are coming out by virtue of the fact that we need to move them because there's gonna be a building there? A new one. Just trying to,
On this applicant, we gotta consider, we're limited to our 100-foot upper review
no,
area.
I'm saying within 100 feet.
Right, within our
building.
jurisdiction.
I can answer that.
Okay.
How many trees have to come out by virtue of that building going up?
10 are due to construction activities.
10, okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm here that I missed one, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll make a
Can I
motion.
have one quick comment? I just want to say for the record that I spent a lot of time reviewing the plans. I don't want you to think that I don't look at the plans. A flurry of materials have come in since yesterday, and sometimes when things come in at the last minute, they don't get the attention that things that have been in our office for a while ago. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Okay, I move that we will continue. Hello?
Mr. Brogy here again. I just want to throw in that I don't believe, given the dearth of invasive plants in and around the wetland area, that it's needed to see those plants removed and the trees removed before a planting plan is developed in and around the wetlands. I think that a planting plan that the commission can review that enumerates the species that are proposed, the shrubs that are to be installed, size and location. I think that that can be included in a future plan. I don't think there's a need to wait, and I think it would be more informative to the commission and certainly more informative to me to assess existing conditions and adverse impacts to the wetlands. So we can visualize, what it will look like in the future. I think it would be helpful to the application.
Okay, I anticipate and hope and recognize that you have worked well with Mr. Logan to develop these sort of tweaks and plans together, and I would think you guys would do nothing but further that as we move forward, so I think I leave it to you guys to figure that out. As well as, things regarding scheduling with the applicant, pointed out, Mr. Hart pointed out. Yeah, I want everyone to coordinate visits and everything so that they're fruitful. Sure. Okay, so I will make a motion that we continue the application to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be October 16th, which is within our time frame to do so. Second? Second. Second, any discussion on that particular motion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All opposed? Okay, well, so we have one opposition. Very good, thank you very much.
Sorry, who voted against that?
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Okay, moving on to our next, thank you, Mr. Brogy, if you haven't left already, thank you very much, Ms. Adams, and thank you to everyone who's here. Moving on to application 25-013 Rivera, application to conduct a regulated activity at 22 Dibble Road, map 46, lot 39-1, construction of a residential home within the 100 foot open review area. Applicant owner Johnny Rivera, agent Angela Cole, review for completeness, determine if regulated activities are significant. We received 8/21/25. Ms. Cole. Mr. Rivera. Attorney, this is not attorney law, is it?
No, not Dibble, no,
Okay,
that's,
did we continue this to the left?
yes.
They weren't here.
She said she was coming, no. Maybe she got tired of waiting.
I don't know, we can check the hallways.
Oh.
Wouldn't pretend to say it was pandemic.
Wait there.
Okay, well, all right, well, at the very least, I will make a motion that we move this to the end of the agenda. So move. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Move to the end of the agenda. Okay, moving on to a violation issued 7/23/25 for regulated activities, including the clearing of vegetation within 100 foot upland review area without a permit at 0 Elm Street. Owner David J. and Sherry Maynard. We are to discuss the violation and remediation. I understand a remediation plan was submitted.
Hi.
Hi there, how are you?
I have copies
Okay.
of these.
I got it.
Oh, you do, okay, and then there's the little drawing with the little sketches on it, it's just when I printed it didn't have that.
I'll take a video of the drawing and sketches, just so I don't have to look it up on my phone. Yeah.
Yes, no, you're.
Couple. Another. And.
Nice sweater.
same thing.
Thank you.
Who else needs one?
Thank
I
you.
could- yeah, you can.
I need permission to have the letter.
That's okay, we're good.
Here, I have them.
Thank you.
No, I gave away too many.
Sorry.
Did I have one?
Yeah, sure, here, you can have this one.
I got an extra one.
Okay.
You need a letter?
Here.
I got plenty. Gotta switch it.
I have one.
Okay. Other than the letter and the remediation plan pictures, or anything else you wanna say, we would,
Not
Okay.
really, I think that Bob was pretty clear.
yep. Procedurally. And on that, you can sort of fill me in if I'm off on this. I think what you have presented to us today is sufficient to clear the violation. And that we don't need to take any more sort of, corrective action violations. As we referenced last time, we were not looking to come out and punish you or anyone else for this sort of thing. However, what Mr. Russo proposes and what your plan moving forward proposes is a fairly, I don't want to use the significant, like, look, the lower S, the non-statutory definition, right, of a substantial activity that's going on here that you probably would need an application for. Because and the reason why, and this is gonna sound a little weird, but what you're proposing in terms of, the maintenance, the maintaining on both access sides of the sluiceway, periodically clearing vegetation to the barn, removing tires and debris from the stream, all that's in the way, that in itself might be, but removing fallen, dead or dying trees, those sorts of things. All would probably, if this was a residence, if the barn that we're talking about was a person's residence, would probably be allowed as landscaping as of right, meaning you would not need to come in and file an application. It is my understanding, however, that the barn is not a residence.
Right.
Okay, that means it's not an as of right activity. I think you will need to make an application that Lynette can help you with moving forward. To perform these sorts of activities on the property, that you may want to do moving forward. I think you'll need an application to do that. That application may be able to be handled administratively. I'm not sure, depending on what you want to do, but I think that procedurally, you'll need, I don't think this is an as of right activity because there's not a residence pertinent to it. So I think you might need to come in with an application. I think Lynette can help you out with that, if that makes sense.
Which particular things though, you know what I mean, there's
Sure.
different options, like around the actual barn. Behind the barn is the water drop where the old mill and the sawmill were, and, that needs to be able to be
Yep.
at least maintained so that you can get to it.
Yep.
And all the old archaeological dig items that are all over, the historical significance of those. I hate to see them rust in the ground, so those
Sure.
type of things that are right around where the water drop is,
So,
that was around the barn. So it's not just the barn, it's the actual historical site of the mill.
yep. Lynette, you want to say something?
So this sketch that you have, it doesn't show the wetland boundaries on there, but, so the whole sluiceway, for the most part, is a wetland.
Water course. Water course, yeah, or a well, yeah.
Okay, I think it's flagged as a wetland, but it
Yeah,
could be,
yeah.
I don't know if it's a water course, 'cause it doesn't always have water in it, but whatever. Either way, it's regulated. And where it meets up with the, Oyster River here, obviously, is also regulated area. So there's a lot of regulated area in here, and it appears that a lot of clearing took place. So it sounds like from this letter, Mr. Russo is suggesting that all of that, with the exception of this red area, remain cleared. So in order to do that, I think an application would be necessary. And then I don't know about proving that administratively. I suppose
It would depend on what it is.
you could, yeah, I mean, I don't know how the commission feels about that proposal, so.
I would think it can be handled administratively. It may well be.
So within anything within 100, any activity within 100 feet of a wetland that requires the removal or deposit of material, the clear cutting of vegetation, there's a list of activities that within 100 feet require an application. And unfortunately, the two meetings you've come to have required, have maybe given you a negative impression as to what those applications entail. 90% of our applications do not involve anywhere near the level that you saw in terms of what you just
We've
said.
been around a lot.
Yeah, usually it's,
This is my first.
yeah,
rodeo.
usually it's a lot lower wattage. So, but the activities that you're proposing here in terms of maintaining access to the sluiceway and removing the vegetation and sort of doing that again, probably would require an application. The reason why you were noticed for a violation was that the activities that you did weren't approved by an application. So you're sort of, the letter sort of said that, well, you want to keep doing what you did. So to do that, and to keep you not from being violated, you should get an application to come back in, and then we can find a way to, you know, look at what you're doing, maybe work out some ideas, might have some suggestions for you as to sedimentation control to make sure that while you are maintaining and brush hogging and doing all that, stuff doesn't flow into the wetlands.
Did not brush hog.
Okay,
There was no brush hog.
Okay.
It was a machete.
sure,
Can I add
Yeah.
something?
sure.
What's done is done.
Mhm.
Going forward, we don't want you to have to come in here and ask for forgiveness.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay,
that's exactly.
so consequently, like you had this letter prepared by, one of the gentlemen at CLA Engineers. Okay. Good. Part of the application, you've got to come up, if you want to use them or any other engineer, you've got to come up with a detailed site plan, which shows everything. Which, the drawing, the photo is a nice start, but that's not a site plan that's in conformance with what our requirements are. In the regulations, that's all. And it would, for instance, it would show, as the chairman said, it would show the waterway, Oyster River or the other one, and it would designate that basically you've got 100-foot upland area on both sides. So literally, you've got the stream, and we can regulate, our mission is to regulate everything over that 200-foot swath.
Right, which was pretty much the whole property.
Yeah, and that's not that it can't be done, and frankly, the nature of the activities that you're talking about are not. I wouldn't call them controversial by any means.
Right.
Sure. But they need to be applied.
Right, so would that be like next year when it was time to weed whack and things started to grow?
I
in?
get it, no, so your application, how long is the approval good for? If we approve an activity, a proposed activity, the approval goes for,
Well, if there's a plan for future maintenance of the property, I think that's it forever.
yeah, forever. So once you get it approved once,
Unless something is
Unless
just
you're
an
doing something
additional
different.
regulated activity.
so when you get an activity in the wetland approved, say this, if you're talking about clearing brush, we'll use that as an example, clearing brush. Once we approve you to clear brush, you can go ahead and keep clearing brush. But I get it done before you want it to.
Or the event that a tree came down.
Right.
Well, we'd have, the plan would have that in the event that a tree fails, lightning, whatever.
That is
Or
what
whatever
happened
it is,
actually.
is that this would be the way it would be removed within a certain period of time. But we're just anticipating that, not that it's happening right now.
So you don't, I mean, I would do it, get the plan of so your first question of, do we wait to do it when we wanna do something? Do it before you wanna do something, so that you have the approval in hand, and that way it's. you're good.
I mean, I don't personally have a map. So I mean, I would have to get a surveyor to,
Feel like.
They can do it for you.
so then I've gotta hire him to do more,
Yeah.
like a remediation plan.
Nope. He'll know if, well, that'll help you through it, if you go to the office, it's an application.
Well, would another alternative be,
That will look like that. Including signed and certified by LS and or PE.
Right, and so you would need a survey.
Yeah.
Actually, we did have it surveyed, he's not on it.
I'm wondering if the owners wanted to just maintain the driveways going in on both sides and the area around the barn and not weed whack all of the sluice way inside and out and up to the stream bank, if that would not necessarily be an application, because the driveway was there.
Yeah.
The other driveway was there. It was all of the other cutting that was done
Right.
inside of the sluice way that kind of triggered this whole thing.
I don't see where we really need to cut inside of the sluice way.
on a regular basis by any means. The little path on either side of the sluiceway should be accessible to get into the property, it seems to me, because it does
The
have
driveway
frontage.
there isn't enough,
Well, that's on one side of the property, and then the other side is on Mill Rock Road. And in order to get into the backside of, behind the barn where the
I'm calling that the
sawmill used to
driveway.
be. Oh,
I think, from Mill Rock Road, isn't that a driveway?
right, no,
Going in there?
nobody's ever.
I think that's
done
what
that.
it is.
It was a
That's what
cart
it's
path in the old days.
It's car,
From
well,
the Mill
it's
Rock
not
Road.
paved for sure.
Right, yeah, so there was a little a path that's been there forever on either side of the sluiceway
Okay.
to access the back part of the property and the Elm Street side. And the sawmill area, which would have been behind the barn itself.
So the sluiceway is considered a wetland, and you're saying that it needs to be maintained as a clear.
No, not inside the sluiceway, I just thought that a path on either
Okay.
side of it so that you could get a tractor in
Okay.
or, you know, a small.
Yeah.
That would be all we're really looking for. And he drew this little red scribble of the buffer further up than actually where the stream comes in. The stream comes in and the tires that are in the stream have to have been there for many generations. It's certainly nothing we ever did, and I don't know if it came from the previous owners or from the owners across the stream. Had people there.
Okay, so
I don't have to get the tires out of the stream, it was just a thought.
I don't think that needs.
You've got the fish ladder going in and.
So- Okay, so what I think we can do is, so the following recommendations under CLA. Because where you see numeral 1, where it says because vegetation was cut along the top of the bank, south of the barn going forward, we have 5 foot vegetated buffer underground. Seed this buffer with the wildflower seed mix attached. I think that we can do as the remediation for what was taken out, right? So seed that'll be your remediation for the violation that occurred. Do that part. To the extent that you wanna do any of the other stuff, talk to Lynette and see what sort of application you may or may not need, depending on what you want to do.
Sure.
Okay, that makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Motions?
No, I guess you could make a motion to handle it administratively.
I move that we handle the remediation and violation administrative.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Good luck. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Violation 7/23/2025 for regulated activities, including the stockpiling of soil within the 100-foot effluent review area at 62 to 64 River Street, map 49, lot 25, 144, owner 144 Mill Rock Road LLC, agent attorney Terrence Loan. We heard discussed violation of mediation. Lynette, what's going on with Attorney Loan?
Well, he's here
Oh,
on
okay.
Zoom.
Good. Attorney Long, are you with us? Do we have to ask him to mute?
I'll keep that.
Oh, I remember these.
Why don't you get plug in?
Oh, I think he's on. Oh,
There he is.
oh, there we go.
Good evening. I'm Terrence Lum for the record, and I represent Mr. Bogan regarding this. Sorry, I'm not there, but you can see I had a minor health setback, and so I'm trying to catch up here a little bit. This is unlike your prior applications this evening, and I know this meeting's gone long, so I'll try to be brief. Brief for a lawyer, of course, but brief. What we'd like to do so that everybody knows sort of what's happening here is there was just by way of background, there was a notice of violation. As I indicated, I had this little health setback, so I wasn't able to respond. But Lynette was kind enough to send me the copy of the violation. So the plan here for us would be to submit an application to the commission. And unlike your other applications tonight, this property, the subject property is in an industrial zone and is a working piece of property. So it's not just a site plan and we're done. We need a permit to be able to continue to run the operation, which has been going on for numerous years. We are also in the process, as an aside, the property was classified on the zoning maps as residential, which was clearly an error. We're getting that changed to industrial, so there's no question as to the underlying regulations which would apply specifically to these properties and then also to the use. So those are sort of the outline of what we would come forward with. We have Bill Hearn, who was be the engineer, to put a plan forward. And then our desire would be to have you issue a permit, so you know what's allowed there, what you can do, and Mr. Bogan would know exactly what he would be able to do on the property. But like I said, this is a working piece of industrial property. So it's not just a single permit to either remove trees or add shrubs or any of that. The property is surrounded on both sides by wetlands, and of course we'd put in the appropriate protections for those wetlands and whatever is required. But that would be the plan going forward. And so I guess the overall plan would be to continue this to the next meeting. In the meantime, get an application in, which would be appropriate with Lynette's guidance.
That sounds like a reasonable path forward to me. So, all right, I will make a motion that we continue the matter to our next public meeting in October to allow the owner to submit an application for regulated activities.
Great, thank you, we'd appreciate that.
Second. And all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Attorney Lowe. Hope you feel better.
Okay.
That you're out.
Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Oh, gosh, I think your attorney will tell you, quit while you're ahead.
We
Nobody laughed.
we waited 2 hours for that, but thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Attorney Lowe.
Okay.
Good to see you, thank you, sir.
See you next month.
And we look forward to the application.
Thank you.
You may go. Good application. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay, moving on to our regular business.
So you still have this.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Application 25-013 Rivera. Application to conduct a regular activity, going once, going twice. Let's see, review for completeness. And we kick it for another?
Well,
I hate to have them come back in and
you
pay a new
could
fee. I don't wanna do that.
technically approve it at the next meeting, I think. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
because we've had it for a while, so it's not too soon to act, certainly not.
But it's all not too late to act, or next meeting we can do it.
No, it's,
Well, it's 8/21, right?
Right, so receive, well,
yeah,
we,
you've got till 8, 9. Wait, the other ones were submitted 8/21 also. I moved my calendar, hold on a second.
no problem.
Did I ask the question, are there any issues with this?
Oh, no, for sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah, we can go talk.
it's just they're building a new house. They're constructing a house and the one.
They can do it.
Same footprint.
Taking out
Yeah.
the old one and putting it on the same foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
They gave us a site.
Did they have sediment, all the controls that we usually like to see on it?
It doesn't, but
The site plan was incomplete.
the one thing we
Yeah, the
have,
site plan was incomplete. That's the issue. That's why we want them here, so that we can tell them what to
well,
do.
they're really just putting your house back on the same foundation, so I don't know what else you want, what's incomplete about it?
Well, I mean, they mapped the wetland in the site plan, but they don't show the 100-foot upland. They don't show that one.
Well, that covers the whole house. It goes right out, it goes out to the street.
Well, I know.
It should be
We're
on the site plan.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I'm gonna
gonna
ask them
require
for
that
a
of all
site
applicants.
plan with showing the upland review area.
Sedimentation control, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And I think that if they get that done, then, I mean, it's not a problematic application, it's just doesn't have the stuff we usually.
Be that sedimentation erosion control, if the old building's coming down, they've gotta show us a plan, where they
Stockpiles.
where they gonna put the demolition dumpsters?
Yeah.
So to minimize and make sure those are under control, it's not rocket science.
All right, I will move that we continue 25-013 to our next regularly scheduled meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, we'll give the Riveras. It's not on a tortoise camera on them. Okay, minutes. Anybody had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting?
Yep.
I only have one comment. I
Yes,
saw the minutes and maybe my mind, well, I thought that I was seated the last meeting.
He
It said
was.
I was. But it-
I was not.
You were.
but, so it showed up as I wasn't seated.
Okay, so we will amend to
Yeah,
show
Okay,
that you are seated.
okay. That was the only item.
I did have one comment.
Like,
Yeah, but I
Oh.
was not seated.
but maybe,
On page,
were you seated?
Yeah.
Sure, okay.
Because I voted.
You said, okay. It was.
Okay, that's fine.
It was easier because you were gonna recuse just to have you seated instead of flip flopping.
Right. Okay. Any other changes? Bob?
page 5, second line, for a 218-foot tree.
That is a large tree. That is a,
Page 5.
maybe it was tree 218? Cause I think, cause they're numbered, right? Yeah. I think it's probably tree 218.
Okay.
Which two was 300 on the.
Yeah, they're late, yeah, and I seem to recall. Let me see, I actually got it pulled up right now.
Go back.
Tree 218. Is, yeah, tree 218 is labeled as Eagle's Nest tree on the map. So it's gotta be tree number 218. So she expressed concern for tree number 218. Any other changes? Hearing none, I move that we accept the minutes as amended. Second, all in favor? Aye, aye. Opposed, abstentions, hearing none. So accepted as amended. Representative and staff reports.
I administratively approved one permit for a deck 70 feet from a wetland, a deck off of a house at 4 Forden Trail. And that was it.
Okay.
And
Correspondence?
staff report.
Yeah, staff report.
Oh no, wait, this is an announcement. The Cackywit Conference is, November 15th in Cromwell. It's a Saturday. It's an all-day thing. If you haven't gone yet, it's really a great conference. If you'd like to attend, just register, pay. After you attend, just let us know and you'll be reimbursed for the cost. We're members, so it would be the $85 choice for membership. And that's it.
Okay. All right, I move to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everybody.